If you have left a relationship and found yourself in the exact same dynamic again, or you are in something right now that confuses the hell out of you and you cannot figure out why, I'm going to tell you exactly why that keeps happening and why you actually cannot stop doing it. Not from theory, not from a list of red flags you already Googled, actual steps, real things. And I'm going to tell you all of this from inside because I didn't learn this from a book. I learned it from 8 years of my own life. 8 years I was in a marriage where I slowly stopped existing. It wasn't dramatic, not all at once. It was happening really slowly. And the moment that cracked literally everything wide open for me wasn't a big fight, my friend. It wasn't even a therapy. It wasn't any type of conversation. It was me sitting alone, buying a book, completely convinced that I was the narcissist in the relationship. That's where I was. That's how far I have gone with all that. I genuinely thought maybe I am the problem, maybe I'm the one doing it for us. So I sat down with that book and I started reading, my friend, and every behavior on that pages, the way they twist the conversation so you end up apologizing for something they did, the way they make you feel crazy for having completely reasonable reaction, the way they need to be a victim in every single story no matter what actually happens. None of it was describing me in that book. It was describing the person I was living with, page after page after page. And something in me went quiet, my friend. I was not sad, I was not angry, because for the first time in 8 years I had a thought I hadn't been able to think. Maybe I am not the bad guy. And that is where it comes from, not from studying narcissism, from actually living it long enough that I forgot who I was before, my friends. So let's start with a thing that nobody tells you, and I think this is the most important place to begin, my friend. You didn't end up in this relationship because you were so-called a weak person. You didn't end up in this because you were naive or broken or just bad in reading people. You end up there because of a specific things about who you are. And those things are actually very good things. They were just used against you. A narcissistic dynamic cannot survive without a very particular type of a person on the other end. Think about it logically. Two selfish people don't stay together. They just fight and leave. So for this dynamic to work, to keep going, there has to be someone on the other side who holds it all together. And that person has a very specific profile. They are a giver. They lead with empathy. When someone tells them they caused harm, their first instinct is actually not to defend, it's to understand. They are the person who after a fight is already thinking about how to repair it. They are loyal in a way that goes beyond what the situation actually deserves. They are forgiving, they believe in people, they believe if they can just find the right words, the right moment, the right approach, something will finally shift. They are optimistic about people even if the evidence says stop being optimistic. This is not a weakness, my friend. This actually is a beautiful thing to be wired. The problem is it becomes the exact thing that gets exploited because on the other end of that person is someone who has learned, either consciously or not, that they don't have to change, that they don't have to take accountability, that they don't have to consider your feelings because you will do it for them, my friend. You will take the blame, you will make it make sense, you will finally find a way to stay. For 8 years, I did all of that, my friend. I got so small inside that I genuinely didn't know who Ada was anymore. My sense of self was gone, my inner voice was gone. What I actually wanted from my own life completely was buried under one constant, exhausting question. How do I keep this from falling apart? And the thing that nobody told me, I was the only one asking that question, my friend. He never asked it once. So here's the pattern I want you to see clearly, because once you see it, you cannot really unsee it. You are the one taking accountability in that relationship every single time. You are the one trying to repair after conflict, right? You are the one reading the books, listening to the podcast, learning their triggers, figuring out how to bring something up in a way that won't set them off. You actually became an expert in managing not your own, but their emotional state. And while you were doing all of that, what they were doing, my friend, Nothing. Because they didn't think anything is wrong. You are the problem, you are too sensitive, you are needy, you are the one who always wants to talk about something. Why can't you just let go? Why do you have to ruin a good day? And here's what's so insidious about that, my friend. You start to believe them. Not because you're stupid, because you're a person who takes feedback seriously. Because when someone you love tells you something about yourself, you actually sit with it and wonder if it's true, right? This is a sign of emotional maturity. But in this dynamic, it becomes the thing that keeps you stuck. You keep wondering, maybe I'm too much, maybe I'm the problem, maybe if I just communicated differently, approached it differently, needed less, that would work. Is that sounds familiar? They are never wondering that, not even once, my friend. They have never sat at night questioning whether they are the issue, because in their version of events, they are always the victim. Always, my friend, even if the situation where they caused the harm to you directly, somehow by the end of the conversation, you are the one apologizing, right? This is not a communication problem. This is not a compatibility issue. This is a pattern. And patterns don't change because you finally find the right words. I want to talk about something called reactive abuse, because I live this and I think this is one of the most damaging parts of this whole narcissistic dynamic, and almost nobody talks about it clearly. Alright, so here's what happens. You've been suppressing your frustration for months, maybe even years. Every time you try to bring something up, it goes turned around you, so you stop bringing things up. You started going quiet, going along, swallowing things that were genuinely not okay. And that unprocessed anger, it just builds. It has nowhere to go. And a narcissistic person, whether they know exactly what they are doing or it's just how they operate, will eventually push the right button at the right moment, and everything you've been holding on comes out. So you raise your voice, you say something you don't mean, you react in a way that looks from the outside really bad, right? And suddenly that's the evidence, my friend, they've been waiting for. Now it's not deny, deny, deny. Now it's, see, you're the bad guy, the same bad as me. You're actually the abusive one. Look what you've did. Look at how you treated me. And the worst part is that you start believing it, because you did lose your cool. You did say that thing, and you are the kind of a person who takes responsibility for your actions, right? So you do. You apologize, you feel shame, and just like that, the real issue, the months of being dismissed and manipulated and basically wearing you down, completely disappears, because now you're both guilty. It's not even equal, my friend. It's not equal, actually. It was never equal. But I want to be honest with you with the way I had to be honest with myself. Even if they baited you, even if they pushed every single button you have, your reactions are still yours. The work of healing means learning to see the bait before actually taking it. Learning to recognize you are in a conversation with someone who has no interest in resolution, only in winning, my friend. You're removing yourself before you became someone you don't recognize. And that was some of the hardest thing I had to do, not forgiving him, but forgiving myself for the moments I reacted in a way I wasn't really proud of, understanding why it happened and learning to do it differently. Now I want to ask you a question I want you to actually sit with, not just move past. Why is leaving so hard for you, even if you've known this for a while? Because if it were just about whether the relationship was healthy, this would be simple for you, right? You assess it, see that it isn't, and then you leave. But it's not that simple, obviously, we know that. And the reason it's not simple has nothing to do with them. It has to do with something that was wired into you long before you ever met them. Okay, here's what I mean. Most people who find themselves in this dynamic, and I was absolutely one of them, have a deep, usually unconscious belief that love has to be earned, that you have to be the good one, agreeable one, useful one, low maintenance one, that your needs are a burden and having them makes you difficult to love, that the way to keep someone is to make yourself as easy as possible to be around. Where does this come from? For most of us, it comes from way before, from the first relationships we ever had, from a parent who was emotionally unavailable or critical, or whose love felt conditional. From learning early in life that the way to stay safe was to manage someone else's emotions. From being the kid who kept the peace, who didn't take up too much space, who figured out very quickly that their needs were inconvenient. And then you grew up and you found someone who felt familiar. Not safe, my friend, but familiar. And your nervous system said, I know this. I know how to do this. And it just pulled you in. And this is not you being broken, my friend. This is your brain trying to protect you the only way it actually knows, using the map it was given. But guess what? The map is wrong. And until you redraw that map, you will keep ending up in the same places with the same people. And I had to look at this so honestly. I was so afraid of being alone that I have stayed in something that was making me completely disappear. And here's the truth that finally got through to me. You will never feel more alone than you do in the relationship with the wrong person, my friend, because being actually alone is so much more less lonely than being invisible next to someone who is supposed to love you. So what do you actually do? Let's get into it. The first thing is to stop trying to understand them and start paying attention purely to the behavior. Their childhood, their attachment style, their wounds, their reasons, none of it is your job to figure out, my friend. What they do consistently over time, this is the information for you. And you take that information and you ask yourself one question. Is this behavior acceptable for me or no? Not can I understand why they're doing it? Not could they eventually stop? Is it acceptable right now as it is for you, my friend? If the answer is no, this is your answer. The reason doesn't change the impact, my friend. And the second thing is getting brutally honest and clear on what a relationship actually requires to function. Not your dream relationship, my friend, the baseline. It's the trust, meaning what they say matches what they do. It's the equality, meaning the same rules applies to both of you. Consideration, meaning your feelings and your needs matter and get treated like they actually matter. And the fourth thing, my friend, respect, meaning even in conflict, you are not being torn down. I want you to write those 4 things down, then look at your relationship and ask honestly, are all 4 of those consistently present? Not sometimes, my friend, but consistently. And if they are not, the relationship is not functioning. You can love someone and still be in non-functioning relationship. Now the third thing, and this is where the real work is, you have to understand why staying feels safer than leaving, even when leaving is clearly the right thing for you. Because until you understand that, you will either stay or you will leave and find your way back, or you will leave and find someone identical. The fear that keeps you there, name it, my friend. Is it the fear of being alone? Fear that you won't find anyone else? Fear of what people will think? Fear of hurting them? Fear of starting over? Whatever it is for you, name it, my friend, and look at it directly, because that fear is not protecting you. It is the thing that has been making decisions for you. And it needs to be examined, not obeyed, my friend. The fourth thing is understanding what boundary actually is, because I think this word has been so overused that it lost its all meaning. A boundary is not something you set on another person. You cannot control what they do. A boundary is a decision you make about yourself. What you will accept, what you will no longer stay in the room for, what you will and won't engage with. And the most powerful boundary you can set in a situation like this is distance, my friend, is space, is silence, is removing yourself from the dynamic entirely. Try it for yourself, because it really works, I promise you. You don't need their agreement. You don't need them to understand it. You do not need to explain it in a way that satisfies them, because you never will. You just move, my friend. That's the boundary. The fifth thing is the long game, and this one is the one people skip most because it's the least dramatic and the most necessary, let me tell you. You have to rebuild your relationship with yourself first, and I mean this very specifically. You have to spend time figuring out who you are outside of managing another person's emotional world. What do you actually need to feel loved? Not what you've been told you need, not what you've been shamed for needing. What does it actually feels like in your body when you genuinely feel safe with someone? What are the things that you stop doing, wanting, being because they made you inconvenient? Stay there for a second. Start reclaiming those things, my friend, because the reason you keep attracting this is not your bad luck, is that your nervous system learned to recognize dysfunction as home. It just feels familiar. It feels like something you already know how to navigate. And emotionally safe people can actually feel boring at first. It just feels too easy. Not enough of pull, right? But this is the rewiring that needs to happen. Safe has to start feeling like the things you want, not like the things you settled for. That shift does not happen overnight. It happens in small moments. Like, for example, the first time you notice a red flag and you feel repelled by that red flag instead of intrigued. The first time someone is emotionally unavailable and instead of waiting to chase them, you just feel tired by that. The first time you set a limit with someone and you don't immediately feel guilty about it. Those moments are the nervous system learning a new language. And every time you choose yourself, it gets a little more fluent, my friend. All right, and one more thing I want to talk about with you right now is the moment you know. Because people always ask me, how do I know it's time to go? And I think we overcomplicate this question because the answer is uncomfortable. You know that. You already know. You've known this for a while. The question isn't whether you know. The question is whether you're ready to honor what you know. But if you want something concrete, here it is, my friend. Ask yourself this. If my best friend came to me and described exactly what I'm experiencing right now, what would you tell her? If she would tell me that she apologizes for every fight, even if she didn't start it, that she walks on eggshells consistently, that she feels more alone in a relationship than she did when she was actually alone, that she lost a track of who she is, that she's confused more days that she's actually not, what would you tell her? You wouldn't tell her to try harder, right? You wouldn't tell her to communicate better. You wouldn't tell her to give it more time. You would tell her she deserves more than this. You would just tell her the truth. Tell yourself the truth, my friend. I lost 8 years in a relationship that taught me I wasn't worth being considered. And then I sat down with a book I bought thinking I was the problem, and I realized that was never the truth. It was the only story being told to me in that house, and I had been living inside someone else's story for so long, I forgot I had my own. You have your own story, my friend, and the version of you that exists on the other side of this, the one who knows what she needs, who trusts her gut, who doesn't apologize for taking up space, she is not far away, my friend. She is just waiting for you to stop making yourself small enough to fit into something that was never built for you at the first place. This is the work to do. It's not easy, but it's completely possible. Trust me on this one. I'm standing here as a proof of that. And if something in this video hit home, if you're someone in the middle of trying to break a pattern, you keep finding yourself, my next video is exactly where you need to be, because that's where we go deeper into what actually comes after this. So don't miss it. Subscribe for more content like that. And if you're trying to break any toxic pattern, I have a free PDF with 18 steps how to do this once and for all. So grab your free PDF, and I look forward to see you in the next one. Good luck, my friend.